All right, everyone, thank you for joining Certified CIO's webinar on getting to know Microsoft Teams and how to use what you already have more effectively. We hope you guys learned a little bit something on a product a lot of you already have and are paying for other products to frankly do things that Microsoft Teams can do. So hopefully we can help you save a little money here today. My name is Jason Heiner. I'm going to be moderating, and I will be checking in the Q&A. Again, we will please ask your questions throughout the webinar as you have them, but we will answer them at the end. Our host today is Eric Lamdin. He is the Helpdesk Manager at Certified CIO. Eric, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So I'm Eric. If you are a Certified CIO client already, then odds are that we're already familiar with each other, and we've talked a bunch of times, possibly about Teams. If you are not a Certified CIO customer, we welcome you all the same, and hopefully, we can have a relationship going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share my Teams here. We're actually using Teams today to do this session. So this is a new feature in Teams where you can actually do live webinars and events all in the same program. So I'm going to share my screen here. So bear with me a second. It may look a little funny momentarily. Okay, great. So as you can see, this is our view of the live webinar and some of the functions in here. So I'm going to dive right into some of the basics of Teams. This is going to kind of be a 101 level intro into how everything works here. So another thing we wanted to touch on briefly was that Teams is HIPAA compliant and also meets some other security standards such as NIST 853 and some other ISO standards. We're happy to go more into that on more of a case-by-case basis, but you do get a BAA with Microsoft automatically just by having the Office 365 services when you originally sign up. That's part of the package. So I'm going to dive into Teams here. We've went ahead and made a demo team for our purposes today. You can make as many teams as you want in here. Our main one that we started back when we started using Teams several years ago, when it was still in its infancy, we named it Dream Team back then, and it just stuck. I'm going to use our group down here just to make sure everyone keeps it G, even though I did recommend that in the main chat. So this is an example of a team, and then we'll also dive into some individual chat functions and some of the similarities and differences and different features you can do in there. In your team groups, your company administrator or certified CIO in most cases would be able to create various teams for you, and they would show up along your Teams program in the sidebar over here. You can more or less have as many as you want, and people like to break them out into a lot of different categories. We personally have, our main team. We've now got our demo team. There's a sales team that I'm not a part of, and there's some other teams that we use as well. Like I believe there's an HR one for the HR staff to communicate. But all those are their own little departments and their own groups that have their own chats inside of them. You can almost think of them as email groups in a sense. When you create these teams, they also get an email associated with them, a SharePoint site, and some other things that are all part of a bundle in Office 365 when you make your groups. So Steve, Jason, and I are in this demo team that we've made. You can type a chat in here that would go to all members of the team. They would get a notification on their computer and on their mobile device if they've got that going on too. You can see you can do little fun reactions on the messages. Steve likes my message. You can like Jason's message. Kind of breaks up the monotony of the day and just kind of makes it a little more fun and friendly. You can tag people directly inside of your team. So if I wanted to make sure that Jason saw my message, I would say, hello, Jason, where is my quote? This would make sure that he gets a notification, even if he's got his notifications muted or is in an away status. That would make sure that he gets that tag and gets that notification. Easy to point out people that way. You can tag multiple people in here. As you type, their names will appear, and then you can quickly tab to get their full, to get them to show up here, and then you can tag multiple people if you want. And then the message goes to everyone. Another cool thing about using the group teams is that you can quickly start a call or meeting right from here. You don't need to do anything special. You would simply click your button at the bottom here that says Meet Now with the little camera, and that would initiate the meeting. I'm just going to start it off here just so that you can see an example of kind of how that would work. You can add a subject, and then you would hit Meet Now, and to begin the meeting, you can choose to have the camera on, the microphone on, both, neither. I'm not going to start it in this case because I'm not sure if that's going to mess up what we're doing here. So I'm going to close out of that, but that's as easy as it is to get a meeting started. You can do some other stuff in here too, such as upload files directly into the group here. You can choose to do it from your computer, from your OneDrive. You can load the file directly into there, and it would show up for the group to be able to access. You can also create brand new files in here if you want by using the Files tab at the top. There's nothing in here yet. I can make a new file directly in here that everyone would be able to access and see. And multiple people can even edit these files from your group simultaneously, which can be really useful for live discussion and brainstorming, things of that nature. And it literally opens up your Microsoft Word right inside of Teams itself, and you have essentially the full functionality of the program within Teams. Pretty cool and pretty handy. We use this ourselves for various spreadsheets that are in our main team that we're kind of updating frequently. That way everyone can see them in there and knows right where they're at. Then those files stay in here in the Files tab. If you go back to the Post tab, here's all of your messages again. Another fun thing that we like to use is the GIFs. You can go in and it's got a bunch of preloaded safe for work GIFs that you can choose to send to your coworkers here. A lot of people get a good laugh out of those. So it gives you a little spice in the day too there. If we flip over to our normal chat, this is where you can do direct chats and other things like that. So we can see different messages that we've got going on here. So like we haven't done anything too much today with Steve, but here you can add all of your different coworkers all in direct chats. You can easily create new chats if you don't have one going on with who you're trying to talk to yet. So I've already got pretty much every one of my coworkers in here, but if I wanted to start a chat with someone, it's as easy as hitting the new chat button at the top, typing their name in, and selecting them. And then here's where you can also make a chat with multiple of your coworkers if you want as well. So I can do a chat with Steve and Jason, and that will show up for them once they accept in their sidebar as well, so that you can easily get back to it in the future. You can have as many of these as you want with as many different mix and match of your coworkers as you'd like. Super easy. That way you don't necessarily need to have a full team for everything if you don't want to, but you can just create these, individual chats yourself. You can, rename these after the fact once you get them started. and that will update on the side. So super convenient and easy to use, and that, nothing really takes more than a few clicks to get going here. You can add more people after the fact as well. If we needed to add someone back in, I can add an additional coworker in if I want to. Super easy as well. Also, from within this view, up at the top are your buttons to start your calls. So I've got my video call, my audio call, and my screen sharing button all right up here at the top. So just by clicking on one of these, it would initiate any of those actions. Everyone would get, so in this case, Steve and Jason would get a ring on their computer or on their cell phone if they're using the Teams app for them to pick up the call that I've started here. And then again, you've got the super convenient screen share function right in here too. This goes along with either the audio or the video call. You can't really do an effective screen share without doing one of the other options too. Otherwise, there's not really any point to it, I wouldn't think. But that's a really good option for showing someone else what you're working on and to get some collaboration. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to mess up my view for the presentation if I start that, so I'm not going to do it in this case, unless Steve is going to tell me otherwise here because he's typing. So you can see as someone is typing a message, you get a notification here as well. But when you share your screen, you will have an option to allow control to one of the other people that you're sharing with. So I could share my screen with Steve, give him control, and then he'd be able to actually control the mouse on my computer and be able to, click on things and show me things that maybe I needed his help with. As to why we were doing the screen share to begin with. Another really cool thing with Teams is that on the mobile app, which I've referenced a couple of times, is that you more or less have full functionality of the full computer program on the mobile app. So it looks pretty similar to what you've got here. Your sidebar is going to be minimized and pushed over to the side, that you have sort of a menu option at the top to choose from. But beyond that, you can do the calls, the video calls. You can see people's screen shares, but you can't share your screen from the mobile app at this point. That's really the only functionality that it's lacking. You can even access any sort of shared files from there if you've got the Microsoft Office applications installed on your cell phone. So if you've got Word installed on your cell phone and someone shares a Word file, you can click right on that file on your mobile app and open that file up there. So, Steve is saying maybe you can share your phone screen. So let's see, I'm on my phone. So I'm replying on my phone here back into this chat. And you can see it pretty much immediately showed up on my computer. So it's super fast. I'm not seeing an option to share the screen from my phone, but that's neither here nor there. But you definitely can do the video and the calls from there. All right, the next part that we're going to jump into, let me see what Steve is trying to tell us here. Okay, I guess nothing, no problem. So the next part we're going to jump into is going to be meetings. A lot of people have reached out to us about how to do meetings through Teams. Maybe some of you probably now might be paying for Zoom or program health or other. So I'm going to go through here and give on Teams. There's the best part in your calendar. You can see I've got all sorts of stuff on my calendar. Option 1 for starting a meeting which is probably the most common, would be to do a scheduled meeting. That would be at some point in the future. So I'll click on New Meeting at the top, and I'll get a guide here, very similar to creating a meeting in Outlook, which most of you are probably used to, or in any of those other platforms like Gmail or Google Calendar. So I will make a meeting here, webinar meeting. Here's where you can put your attendees. So as an example, to show that you can put external users, I will add Steve, who I want to be in my meeting. And I'll also go ahead and add an external user. So it tells you in this case that this person is a guest. It doesn't care that they're a guest when you're doing a setup like this, but it does just give you that notification that this is a guest user. And then straightforward on this part, you go ahead and add whatever date and time you want. You can set it to be all day or not. And if you want to do any sort of repetition for your meeting, you can do that here in this drop down where you can select every weekday, daily, weekly, etc. In your custom options, you get some more detailed options like to repeat every 1 week on Monday and Wednesday. And then you can also do an end date here. So I want this meeting to go every Monday and Wednesday until the end of October, right? And it gives you your little blurb here of what exactly you've set up. A lot of people like to do things like this where maybe they've got a project that has a deadline and you want to meet twice a week until this project is over. This would show up on everyone's calendar on those days, just like if you made a reoccurring meeting or event in Outlook. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can add a location if you want. If you've got various conference rooms in your setups and things like that. I think we have a conference room in ours, maybe not. That's where you would add that here. And in your meeting details, you would type project meeting for ABC. And you can also add maybe a structure to your meeting, progress, questions, etc., to kind of keep a structure to your meeting before it even begins. And then you would send your meeting. So to Steve, he'll get a normal Outlook invite with that meeting request. It'll automatically show up on my calendar here. And to my guest user, they will receive an email with this information in it with my meeting notes and a link for them to join the meeting. It'll look exactly like this. This basically is the email that would have went over to my Gmail account with a link that says join Microsoft Teams meeting. If they do not have Teams, no problem. When they click on the link, it will just launch them into the web version of Teams, and they'll just proceed just as they would in the full installed version on their computer. They can also do the same thing on their cell phone. They can join the meeting through the link on their email on their cell phone. If they want to install the Teams app, they can, but again, not required. It will join them in through the web version of the program. If I needed to then modify or cancel this meeting, I would go into it from my calendar here and do any of my adjustments at this point. A cool thing about these meetings that are reoccurring is once the meeting begins, you'll actually get a meeting chat similar to our normal chats that we're showing over here that would continue for each meeting. So as your weeks go on, your chat grows. You can go back up in the chat to see maybe what was that question that Steve had 2 weeks ago that I feel like we may not have answered. You can go back and look and see what was going on in there. You can also do meeting notes where you can take notes in here, and these would again remain across the meetings as they went on week after week. And so for our example, I'm going to cancel this meeting. option to cancel the occurrence, which would just cancel the one meeting I've got set up today, and the rest of the series would continue. Or you can cancel the entire series, which would cancel them all for all users throughout the series. If you're not scheduling a meeting into the future, then what you may want to use is, oops. So you can obviously, there as an example, you can start a meeting simply by just clicking on your calendar in an empty space as well to start your meeting that way, and it will pre-fill that time that you've selected. So if you want to just do a meeting right now, what you would use is the button that says Meet Now. So in this situation, this may mess us up here. So we'll just, Teams will see a placeholder if you leave. We'll see what happens here. I'll jump back in if this messes me up, but Jason is still in here. I'll go over this screen briefly before I click continue. Essentially, you would edit your title up here, choose if you're starting with your microphone and camera on or not, and then you just essentially start the meeting. And once you're inside the meeting, you'll have a sidebar to invite your attendees. There will also be a button for a hyperlink up there in the top right. That's what you would need to use to invite external attendees. You would click that link button. It would copy the link to your clipboard. You can then just go into your email program, paste the link, and send that to your external users for them to join. You can't add external users just by searching them in this functionality right now. So I'm going to click continue here, and we'll test it out live to see what happens.
And so there we go. Now we know that that is a bad idea. So if you're on a webinar, you do not want to start a meeting. With that said, one common pitfall, as Eric was talking about, you can make the recurring meetings. And so, for example, we have team meetings that that occur regularly. One thing to keep in mind: if the invitee does not join or accept the invite, then the meeting won't necessarily, or it won't appear on their calendar. Okay, so what we've had happen in the past is have coworkers start a new meeting, right? So for example, we have a Friday meeting. If they haven't accepted the invite within Teams, one thing that can happen is if they create a separate meeting, then the meeting notes that Eric was sharing before will not be a part of the separate meeting because it's not a part of the occurrence. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, is that if you have a team member that hasn't accepted the meeting, you might want to remind them to do so for that reoccurrence, so that they're not starting a meeting that is outside of the occurrence, so that you can maintain those notes. It's not a huge deal, but those notes do come in handy more often than frankly, like I expected them to. So anyway, that's just a common pitfall. Eric's back, and Eric, I'll hand it back over.
Yep, thanks, Jason. Yeah, so as soon as I tried to join that meeting, it did kick me out of the webinar. So if anyone wants to see some more detail on that, we're happy to go over that individually. But essentially, once you do that Meet Now, it'll throw you right into a meeting where you can then invite your coworkers. And like I said, there would be a button for a link to copy to send through an email to any external users you wanted to invite. So Steve and myself here have put some copies of the screenshots of what those emails look like into this chat here to demonstrate. So this kind of also shows another super useful function of Teams, is that you can send screenshots and images really easily from your computer and from your phone. So this is the email that Steve got, and there's a link down here at the bottom. Since he's using Office 365 and Teams, his has got an option to accept. If you're on an Office 365 platform, your email will look essentially identical to this, with the link at the bottom to join. Here's a screenshot from my cell phone. in my Gmail account. So you can see it looks pretty much the same. I can also add this to my Google Calendar right from my phone, and I've got my link at the bottom to join the meeting there. So that brings me to another side point about using your cell phone and the Teams app is that it's super easy to send pictures in here. If you've got someone who is maybe on site at a client and they're taking pictures of things, which is common for us in our line of work, they can, you know, send these pictures right in here to the rest of the team. If maybe there's something that they need help with, they can send a picture to the rest of the guys, and it's super easy to upload right from the app. So if I'm on my phone, there's an option literally to take a picture within the app itself. I can take a picture of my screen, and then I can send it directly to the chat within, you know, seconds. As I was talking, I did that on my phone and it popped up right then and there. Super cool functionality there. And like I mentioned before, you can also join a call or a video through the mobile app too. So again, useful for us if someone's on site, they can flip their camera on and do a video and show us what they're seeing right through their phone. Yeah, and Steve has mentioned here that meeting invites will show up in your Outlook as meeting invites too. Back to meetings here briefly. You can also schedule a meeting directly through Outlook. When you go to create a Outlook invite on your calendar, there's an option when you go to create a meeting to create the meeting in Teams. So that's a kind of a third way to create those Teams meetings. That should be in everyone's Outlook by default at this point. Just looking at mine briefly. Yeah, so on my Outlook calendar, I have a button at the very top that says New Teams Meeting. Once you click on that, you'll get a an Outlook window of the meeting, similar to what we had set up in the Teams meeting, where you select the date and time and all of that good stuff. But once you send that, it will create it as a Teams meeting. So there's a lot of other stuff you can do in Teams. Obviously, there's a ton of integrations with other programs that you can add into here. If we look up at our main chat here, we've got some alerts that are automatically showing up in here. So these are Alvic alerts from our network monitoring system that we use at our clients, where it'll fill this feed with alerts that come in that we keep an eye on throughout the day. You can add a whole bunch of other things into here too. In our main chat, we've got a system that basically gives us ticket updates of what we're working on right into Teams, so that we can see updates into tickets without needing to pull up the ticket or go into our email or any sort of that stuff. So that saves a lot of time there, because we're always in Teams, but we aren't always in every single ticket throughout the day. So I can quickly see what the update was on that service ticket without even needing to switch what I'm doing. But tons of good stuff you can see in here. I think that I've touched on everything that I wanted to quickly go over, so I will see if Jason has got any questions yet for us at this point.
Let's see here. All right, so yes, we do have a few questions, and let me move this window out of the way. The first, so Eric, I'll hand some of these off, and some I will answer. So can I have a Teams meeting with others that don't have Office 365? So yes, you can. That was demonstrated. One quick note, guys, if you join as anonymous. Certainly no problem with that, and you're welcome to join as anonymous. But if you would put your name in, that helps us address, especially if you're one of our customers and it's a specific request. We can be a little bit more specific. But so that first question there, there we go.
Yep. So yeah, just to touch on that once more, you definitely can do that. It will send them the link to the meeting. They just click on the link and it will launch them into the web version of Teams that they should be able to join from any device.
Okay, our second question I've published there, it's from Cheryl. If your client screen shares, can they give you remote access?
I'm not 100% sure on that one off the top of my head. I want to say that the answer to that is no, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know that by default, if you share your screen, you cannot give your attendee access if they're a guest. And by guest, I mean someone who is not in your Office 365 organization. There is a setting that we can change on the administrative side to allow that, where you can give screen share to your guests. So in a medical environment where you may want to share your screen with a patient and let them interact with your screen, I know that that is doable. I would need to look and see if vice versa is doable, if a guest can share their screen with you. So we'll have to look that up. I will jot that down now. And that was from Cheryl. Guests share their screen. So kind of on the similar subject there, I believe it was Dr. Cheryl Jacobs that we worked with there. You can also, when you're sharing your screen, share your computer audio, which is a question that a couple of clients have came to us with. Some even saying, we're looking into this program because it does X, Y, and Z, where, as a matter of fact, these functions are already available inside of Teams. So when you go to share your screen, I can see if I can demonstrate this here. I'm not sure, again, if I will be able to share this since I'm sharing my screen, if it will let me. So if I go to share my screen with Jason, so I'm not getting the full slew of options here, but there will be essentially a checkbox that says include system audio. And when you select that box, you can actually play music or sounds or video from your device, and the viewers in your meeting will hear that audio as well. So we've had examples of clients who wanted to play some sort of video that everyone would watch together and they'd be able to comment on while it's happening. So that's a good example of that, where that functionality is built right into Teams. And I've jotted down the question about guests sharing their screen, and we'll look into that.
All right, next question is from David. I want to publish that one here. Question is, hi Eric, thanks for putting this on. You are very welcome, David. Is there a screen share option on which I have the screen share in one window and the other attendees in another window so that I can see attendees clearly? Eric, feel free to jump to add on to this, but the answer to that is yes. So for example, when we're doing our team meetings, and let's say, for example, Steve wants to share his ConnectWise, which is our CRM software, there will be, his window will populate the main screen, and I don't know, for me, it's like the top 80% probably portion of the screen. And then the bottom are smaller panes of the attendees that have, their webcams on essentially. And so, so yes, you do still see the attendees when you are sharing your screen.
Yeah, so you do see the attendees like Jason is saying, but if you're asking specifically if there is a functionality to separate the two so that you have one window of the screen share and a second full window of the attendees, I do not believe that that functionality exists right now. I'm going to try and test it really quick here. So Jason and Steve, I am sharing my window with you. No, it's going to kick me out of the event. We'll test that. I do not believe that that functionality exists at this time. I have heard that brought up a couple of times to do exactly what this question, I believe, is asking, where you would be able to have, if someone was sharing their screen, you can see the screen in one window, and then on another window have a full screen of the faces of the attendees. That does not exist at the moment, as far as I know.
So just to sort of tag on to that, Steve, you guys can no longer see this because we have the Q&A card up, but Steve has jumped in and said you can have them on a second screen as well if you disconnect the window and move it to another window. So it appears as though that is an option. We might have to check that out a little bit further. And then to a previous question, he had answered that he believes guests can share their screen if they are on the full client, but not the web client. So those are things to check into. Here's a question from Anonymous. And come on, teams. And that is, do you provide training for my team?
The answer to that question is yes, definitely. We have gone through this with a couple of our clients, and we can do from the basics here to getting you up and running to a little bit more in depth. If you're interested in more detailed training or just more personalized training, we're more than happy to do that. Definitely reach out to us. If you're a current client, submit a ticket, either give us a call, email, or use the portal on your desktop. If you are not a current client, you can reach out to Jason or Steve at sales@certifiedcio.com. I'm not sure if there's another way that's better to get a hold of you there, Jason, for that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a perfect way. That'll create a sales ticket for us. You can also, if you go to our website, certifiedcio.com, there is a contact us link there. That will essentially do the same thing. There's a form that will create a ticket, or you can just give us a call, 443-283-0666, and we'll get you hooked up.
Awesome.
All right. Here's a comment from Cheryl. The include audio works great. And question, let's see here. Can you also talk about the whiteboard? I'm not getting the client to be able to see my whiteboard.
Yes, so I'm not sure who had asked about this before, but I actually have already looked into this in the past for one of our clients. Currently, right now, guest users cannot see the whiteboard. You cannot share the whiteboard with guests right now. There is actually a post on the Microsoft User Voice website, which is where people can go to make suggestions, and people vote on the suggestions on there, and ones essentially that get the most amount of votes get put in line to get added into the functionality. That is currently a question on there with 275 votes. So a lot of people in here, complaining about this lack of functionality on that. So that is hopefully something that's in the works for Microsoft. But yes, you cannot share the whiteboard at this time with your guests.
Just to tag into that, this Teams and its functionality is definitely a work in progress. Microsoft is, racing along with the other companies that have a similar product to create a more user-friendly and productive environment. And so, even to the webinar as well, when we were getting our training from Microsoft on how to perform these webinars, and put them on, that was a big thing that he was saying at the time. They are definitely interested in A, knowing these kinds of things, what people want, and B, they're actively working on it. And he didn't say this, but essentially they're in a race with the other companies. So if you run into this kind of thing, that, for example, this specific item, definitely let us know, because we can, whether it's just simply Eric adding a vote on those forums, or if it's something we specifically request from Microsoft, as you run into these issues, please let us know, because we can, one, either advise you on how to do it, or two, connect with Microsoft and its community, and help to get that functionality active.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, in this particular scenario, a workaround would be to open your Whiteboard app separately instead of using the Whiteboard inside of Teams. You should be able to share your screen and have them view that at that point, instead of using the built-in Whiteboard inside of your Teams meeting.
Okay, the next question is a follow-up from David. Can the attendee's image be made larger, i.e. can it scale up so that the person is maybe 6 inches square?
That's one I feel like that we have tried to fiddle with ourselves and haven't really found an answer to, where it seems to decide on its own how large the squares are and things of that nature. I don't know if there's any option to manually change them. I'll add that on. I jotted down the question about popping out the user images from the screen shares. I'll add on to that about adjusting the sizes. I believe what it does is scales your window of the attendees based on how many people essentially have their cameras on. That's what we've found, is that if one person has their camera on, everyone essentially sees that one person's face in a giant window. But if more people flip their cameras on, the window divides up into 2 or 4 squares automatically based on the number of people that have their camera turned on. Otherwise, they're all just little bubbles along the bottom with their either picture or their initials.
Another piece of that, and again, I don't want to keep punting with the, well, they're working on it, but one new functionality with Teams was they recently increased to 9 panes. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, Eric, but I believe they increased to up to 9 panes active at one time. So, these kind of things, again, it's good to know that people are asking for them, and then that way we can take part in the community discussions, on these kinds of functionality issues.
Yeah, I believe that is accurate, that they did recently increase it. I'm trying to find the article now. Yeah, I don't want to gobble up the time while I'm trying to figure that out, but I'll note that onto the bottom here. Teams. A bunch of different numbers of limits, but not specifically one about the number of little heads that can show up on your video.
Okay, next question. So this is a follow-up regarding the whiteboard. So if someone has Teams through work, can they see the whiteboard?
Yes. So again, there's a variance between guest users and people inside your organization. So if your other user you're trying to share the whiteboard with is outside of your Office 365 organization and you do a meeting with them, then no, because they're still considered a guest. So if it was someone that was in your same organization, then yes, they would be able to see that. It's possible that we could try to invite someone else with Office 365 into your Microsoft Teams in a different way, as opposed to sending them the meeting invite. And we can test that out, but I'm not sure if that will get around that limitation or not. Is there are ways to actually invite other users into your Office 365 Teams as a guest, where they would actually be able to be in your Teams chats and things like that. That works differently than just sending them a meeting invite for a particular meeting. So I'm not sure if that would be a workaround in that situation. And I'm not sure if I've fully answered that question or not. But if, from my understanding of the wording of the whiteboard inside of Teams, they would need to be inside your actual Office 365 organization, like with the same email or whatever of your company, in order to be able to see the whiteboard inside of Teams.
A few connected questions. When connecting with a client, my picture is very small and cut off on the bottom. Same on the client's end. And Cheryl had a client become anxious because he couldn't see himself. And then follow-on question to that, are the panes only along the bottom?
About the panes, I believe at the moment they are only along the bottom. And so this would probably be, I'm guessing, specifically when you're doing a screen share. When you do a screen share, it does give you a second little window of your own picture that you can like click and drag separately and move it to where you want it to be, so that it's like out of your way or whatever. But yeah, the pictures do show up fairly small, and there doesn't appear to be any way to like resize those at this time. As you know, if there was someone who couldn't see their own picture, it may have, been slightly off of the screen, and they should be able to click and drag that onto the screen. But that would probably be something where we would need to see exactly what was going on there to be able to really say what happened in that situation.
She clarified in a second question here. She's talking about on a regular session. But, so specifically, Cheryl, what I would say is maybe give us a call and see if we might need to, look at specifically what you mean. And it might be a little bit easier, speaking verbally than trying to do it via chat. If you have specific follow-ons for that. That looks like the end of our questions. We do have an inappropriate question that I'm sure is from a coworker that I will leave off the webinar here. So I want to thank everybody for attending. We appreciate it. We hope you've learned something, and that this can be useful to you, and that you can make Microsoft Teams a more productive part of your workflow. I know it's a very important part of our workflow here at Certified CIO. As Eric said, if you have any questions further, feel free to create a ticket if you are a current client. And if you would like to be a client, please feel free to visit our website, certifiedcio.com, click the contact us form and let us know, and we'll get back to you. Give us a call, 443-283-0666. And we appreciate everybody coming today, and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who stopped by. Have a great day.